the stream. Hopefully your levels are high enough. I can always bump you up a little bit more if I need to. Wait, hang on. Yeah, but you're not. I fix. I fixed this. Well, I fixed it. I know I did. If I do that, can you say something now? Oh, was it muted? Try it again.
Testing, testing, one, two,
Oh,
three.
there you go.
Testing, testing, one, two, three.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool, cool. You sound like high enough.
Normal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
never
I do.
sound normal, but you know.
Not since 2020.
Everything changed.
Yep.
And will
No more
you
new normal.
Dude, I forgot about that. Will you just hit the at everyone in the Discord?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Joseph. And then we'll get this show on the road.
Yeah, buddy. I need to get me a boom mic or a mic stand for my freaking mic. I still don't have one, dude.
I meant to send that to you. I am so sorry. You're peeking a little bit on my end, trying to fix it.
I
think you should be good now.
I'll probably end up getting a mic stand one instead of but one that's like a boom arm mic stand instead of just like.
I'm not going to do it now, but I'll send you the one that I got after the show. This Gator Works one. I like it. It's like, it's very sturdy, and it's got the XLR cable running through the boom mic. So you plug in one. Nice. Yeah, it just like everything's a little more organized, and I like that. So it took me a little bit of time to get used to it at first, but I like it much more now, and nice. I'm very happy with it. Oh, whoops.
I appreciate that.
Oh, okay. So, the thing that I was going to tell you about, there's a new controversy going on the interwebs. Now, I think it's pretty stupid because, and we've talked about this before, like neither of us really care about award shows. They're,
not at all.
They're kind of interesting to talk about, and I think it can lead to a bigger discussion, and it's kind of an interesting insight into what the industry is like considering to be the top tier stuff for the year. A lot of it's like really basic. They had like Black Myth Wukong in there, and what was one of the other big ones? Like Astrobot, and I should have pulled these up, but there's some other stuff. But like you look at it all and you go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And there's some stuff missing, some stuff notably missing. I think Warhammer, and these are all for just like Game of the Year. Warhammer got snubbed. Stellar Blade got snubbed. Veilguard got snubbed, but I don't think anybody's complaining about that. And I'm sure there's some other ones that are slipping my mind. It's a weird year for it because you go through, and the first like 4 or 5 categories, it's all pretty much the same game, like the same games being nominated, and then maybe one changes in one of the categories, but it's all like the exact same stuff. And then I was like looking at the narrative stuff this year, because for video games it's always a category that I'm really interested in. And it's funny, I was looking at it the other day because I was talking with a friend of the show, Jake, and I had forgotten that The Last of Us 2 won Best Narrative in 2020.
That's too funny.
For
was that before or after the coup came about?
So that's after,
Okay.
because that would have been the end of 2020 when they nominated that, and I think the game came out like fourth quarter, if I remember correctly. I might be slightly wrong about that timing, but it it's just it's so crazy to me. It's a game I got to get back to streaming on the channel because I was going through it, kind of explaining the best that I could as I was like progressing through it. Like the stuff that works, because like there's stuff in the game, and we always try to be at least like a little bit fair. Even I mean, like I hate the narrative in that game. I think it's terrible. It doesn't hold water at all. Ellie has an insane amount of plot armor through the entire thing, and it's just stupid situations where like she's tied up, and this very militaristic group of people are the ones that captured her, and then they don't like execute her on a number of occasions when they have the opportunity. What's up, Zax? Good to see you, dude.
Hey, dude.
Cheers, dude. And it's stuff like that, and it's like consistent throughout the entire game. And you might be willing to forgive it once, maybe twice. Yeah. But it's pretty crazy the way that they handle that game, and you're kind of waiting for sort of a gut punch moment in it. But the whole thing is just there's nothing there that really connects you to anything that's going on. They try to pull like some stuff with like a basically like the kid and the adult, and they're now this adult is responsible for this kid sort of thing. The problem is in that scenario, the adult is the person who murdered Joel. So you're just like, it's terrible. And then like there's some stuff that like in a much better game would work, where like you're switching between the two characters, and like the one character you're fetching, you're like playing fetch with like this dog or whatever, and then like a couple hours in the game, like you murder that dog as another character, like you kill it. And I think in a better game, like those little moments like that would be like really, it's just like it's icing on the cake or whatever. But in this, I don't know, man. It just doesn't hold up.
It misses the mark.
And I don't know what it is, man, but like every time there are just people who still they have no real argument for it at this point. But there's still people that just hold so tightly to that being at a level of excellence that it definitely isn't. Mm-hmm. Especially from a narrative perspective, which is where most people talk about it. Some people talk about the gameplay, which I think is just passable at best. I think they've patched some of the problems out since the game released, but I have never ever understood just the amount of praise that game gets from the industry, from everybody. It sounds like an emo edgelord fantasy, kind of. It's just, I don't know.
That's your favorite kind of game, isn't it?
Listen, I'm perfectly fine with something like that if it works, But this just isn't it. It doesn't have. I mean, anybody that's played the first one kind of understands. Dude, why is it that every Monday we have trouble with streaming? Sorry, guys, if you experience some buffering. Dude, whenever I stream, never have these problems. And we're literally sitting here just talking to each other. It's not like I got a game playing in the background. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, sorry, guys, if you experience some buffering on the stream. I don't know what's going on.
The Netflix servers getting us.
Yeah. Oh, well, we should talk about that a little bit, too.
I'm game.
Yeah.
Was definitely a IQ test for people to know if there's anybody who understands fighting.
Yeah, I think not only that, but if you weren't completely bored out of your mind when there wasn't a fight going on, I don't know what to tell you. Dude, I was so annoyed. Just they spend the first 20 minutes, they're like, oh, the fight's about to begin, right? And you're like, all right. And then it's like 20 minutes later, they give you the amateur fight, quote unquote, and it's something. It was still more entertaining than the main bout, as far as I'm concerned. But
Yes.
it's one of those things. Well, all three of the other ones were more entertaining than that last one was. And I have some questions for you because this is more your realm than it is mine as far as you're the big MMA guy and but yeah, what did you think? Where are you with the whole thing? And then I'll ask you questions along the way because there's a couple things that are going on the internet, and I'm curious about where you've landed with all of it.
With the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
I mean the event in general, and
Okay, yeah, I'll tell people right now, boxing absolutely sucks. I don't care who's on the top of the card; doesn't matter. You name all this top stars, their cards, the entire card sucks. And the lead up to their fight, whoever it is, Floyd Mayweather, Tyson Fury, Anthony Johnson, who have you. The reason being is it because of the fighters themselves. Yes, do I think boxing's stupid? I do. I think it's stupid that it's like, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. Like, for example, you can't measure. So what that means is you can't stick like your lead arm out, which would be your jab hand, and keep it in front of the opponent's face to measure distance. You can't do that. You can keep putting your hand up, but there's a lot of dumb rules, and I just think it's dumb to where it's like, with the specific rules that if you are going to limit people to only throwing fists, the certain rules that they do have in boxing. But one of the main problems is the main one being is that boxing doesn't put on the fights the fans want to see, or if they do it years and years too late. The second thing is the pacing, meaning that if a fight says it's going to, if the main event, like the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, if that fight's supposed to start at 10 p.m. or let's say 11 p.m., right? Then it doesn't matter if the first card ends by knockout in the first round, the first 10 seconds. They're going to wait until the scheduled time for the next fight and the next fight and the next fight, which is why the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight lasted so freaking long, is because of the pacing with boxing. That's why the UFC is superior. With the UFC, I mean, they'll freaking, if there's like a knockout in every single fight, then that card is going to end extremely early.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's the thing. As far as Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, with that fight, I knew Jake Paul was going to win. Mike Tyson is the better fighter, the better boxer, I should say, technique and skill. Jake Paul could only hope to be two tiers below what Mike Tyson reached, right, as far as boxing skill. But you can't make up. Jake Paul's an amateur fighter that looked like an amateur fight, and you can't make up 30 years difference. As soon as Mike Tyson came out in the entrance and he tripped, I was like, it's over. He doesn't have his legs underneath him.
Oh.
Because it was the way that he was walking. I saw the look in his face and stuff like that. That's when I knew, okay, it's done.
Was it one of those things where you're just like, he's tired because of age? Is it do you think that he was, because okay, so here's what everybody's talking about right now. Like, this is the big controversy with it right now. A lot of people think he threw the fight, because you look at his training videos and then you look at his performance. Now, it's not always 1-to-1, right? I mean, like, you and I both know, like, there's a number of different things that can happen that can, like, throw you off your edge when you finally get to the fight. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I'm with you. Like, I think you're absolutely right. Like, if we're talking, because the big thing with any sport, anything where there's like major competition and it's like I guess even in team sports, right? It's always in their prime who was better, right? And like, there's no one has a defense that says that like that Jake Paul could have taken him in his prime, could have taken Mike Tyson in his prime. Not a chance, right? And so
no.
The big
Jake Paul wouldn't have had a puncher's chance. He wouldn't have had Jake Paul and Mike Tyson's prime on Mike Tyson's worst day of his life ever and Jake Paul's best boxing life of his life ever. When Jake reached the top of his skill, Mike Tyson would still beat him within a minute of the round. Jake Paul would have no chance. And the reason being, primarily is just time put into it. Jake Paul started too late in his life. Um, Now, and what Jake Paul is doing is very strategic for an amateur. He's
Yeah.
capitalizing. Um, you know,
Well, he's a controversial celebrity. That's what he is at
yes,
this point. Like, sure, I guess he's still doing some
but he
YouTube
took it
stuff. I
easy on
don't.
Mike Tyson. That's what I've been telling everybody. I'm like, Jake Paul
Hmm.
took it easy on Mike Tyson. Jake Paul could have easily have had Mike Tyson out of there, because
S-
Mike Tyson, I think whichever leg he had wrapped up seemed like it had been hurt, and he just like we're just walking to the ring. He didn't seem like himself, and then
Yeah.
certain things he was also saying before the fight. And he's 58 years old, man. The fact that he got in there, and don't get me wrong, I mean, if Jake Paul would have gotten close, it's not like Mike couldn't have lit him up, but people
Right.
confuse training footage with an actual fight.
Right.
You can't replicate in training what you do in a fight when it comes to combat sports. I mean, in a sense you can, and in a sense you can't. Um, I'm not a 100% believer in ring rust, which means like if you stay away for a certain amount of time, doesn't matter how much training you do, you have a strong likelihood to lose a fight because you're
Hmm.
not used to fighting. I don't necessarily believe in ring rust 100% to it. I
Yeah.
think there's a bit of truth in there, but not a whole truth. Um, but still, I mean, Father Time's undefeated. Mike Tyson's 58 years old, and clearly you can see, despite Mike. Hey, okay, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hang on. Okay, I think we're back. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're back.
Um,
It's only doing this to us while we're live because I think um, YouTube's not happy with us. Because
dude, what the heck? Like, I don't. I agree with all of that. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, okay. Here's the other thing, right? So here's the other sort of major talking point of the whole event. Um,
uh-huh.
it's that Jake Paul refuses to fight someone who is actually like competition, I guess would be the best
Yeah,
way
like
to put
within
it.
his age range, and also not just within his age range, but within his um, skill of fighting where he's at in his boxing career. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Jake Paul is a good amateur fighter. Um, and you could make the argument in a sense he's no, I wouldn't make that when it comes to boxing. Um, sorry. I
No,
was
you're
about to
good.
say something that was probably pretty dumb. But I think Jake Paul's been strategic in picking
Yeah.
his fights and upping his skill level. But yeah, what were you saying as far as like with him? Like he's just
Well,
been very
I'm slightly talking out of my butt with this, but as far as I'm aware, and to be honest, I get him and his brother confused because doesn't his brother box too, Logan?
not like Jake.
Not like Jake. Okay. So
Yeah, Jake would smoke his brother.
um, so but he doesn't. A lot of the fights that he's picked are with like people who are retired MMA fighters, right? And people
Oh
who
yeah. Well, it's not just that MMA fighters don't specifically train in
for
boxing,
boxing. Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
it's one
But
of
so
the
he's doing retired MMA fighters who also didn't train in boxing. For example, Ben Askren. Ben
oh, that's right.
Askren
I remember that.
literally only did grappling and wrestling. Like even in his MMA fights, he never stood up, through strikes standing up. He would always just seek to take the fight to the ground because he had such a Ben Askren had such a high level of wrestling. Like whoever you think has a high level of wrestling, go above that, and that's Ben Askren. And so in his mind, and especially in the modern age, this is amazing. He was so skilled that he didn't even worry about all the other aspects of training, to his detriment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, that's the caliber like bit that Jake Paul was doing. Nate Robinson, in Jake Paul's defense with the Nate Robinson fight, they were probably equally training, had as much training together. Nate Robinson though was undersized was the main thing. Nate Robinson's like what 5'5" maybe, and
Mm.
like I don't know what he is now, but he
Yeah.
used to he played guard for the Washington Huskies in college basketball, then went on to the NBA. But he was a smaller guy for the NBA, and he was definitely undersized against Jake Paul. But Jake Paul knocked him out, and then you had Tyron Woodley, who was on like a 3-4 or no 4 or 5. Let's see, So I would say 4 or 5 uh, losing streak in MMA, and retires, and then sometime after that fights Jake Paul and loses
Yeah.
to Jake Paul in boxing. And then the one person he fought that was around his age that had as much as experience as he did, he lost to, which was Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's younger brother.
Oh, well, that's good.
And he lost by split decision, which was bullcrap. He should have lost by unanimous decision.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, man. I that's kind of the thing that because I agree with you. I think that despite all of this and despite how much kind of disdain I really do have for Jake, like I think he's never sort of like owned up to any of the like awful things that he's done in his life.
Oh yeah,
And
him and his brother.
yeah, and they honestly, dude, like they are the reason. I don't know if you know a lot about what's going on with this other guy right now. What is this dude's name? Give me a second. Let me grab his name real quick. His name is. Oh wait, did he text that to me? He might have texted that to me. Sorry. Not Johnny Tsunami. What's this guy's name? He's this content creator who is constantly going to these like other, and he's not the only one. Like we've seen a lot of this stuff. You remember? I can't remember if it was this year or last year. The guy who was like the prank videos, and that one guy was like in the mall trying to prank some dude or whatever, and the guy shot him.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Johnny Somali. Thank you, Zax. So they have spawned a number of people who just kind of do. It's like the next generation, and then this generation has even less sense than they did.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I like, dude. I've seen some videos of content creators doing things that they are legitimately lucky that they survived those encounters. I saw a guy who was with his he was with like either his friend or his brother, and they were in Las Vegas, and a guy they were on top of one of those like bridges, I think, that crosses over like a highway or like one of the major streets on the strip, and he just walks up to this guy and starts filming him. The guy's like with his girlfriend, they're like kissing on the bridge or something, and he walks up and he starts like filming the two of them, and the guy's like, hey, can you go away? And they just start, they're being annoying or whatever, and the thing escalates, and then the guys with the cameras, one of them flashes a firearm at the other guy. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And I'm like, oh, dude.
Ooh, dude.
I'm like,
people are stupid.
You
man.
don't know, like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, I sitting there watching that, I'm like, dude, he's so lucky that guy. That he messed with what would be in that moment was the right. Those guys got arrested too, but brandishing a firearm in Nevada,
No, that's no joke.
is it's at least a misdemeanor and like a pretty big fine. But like depending on the situation, it can be a lot worse for you.
Yeah, that's one of those situations you're hoping they get the book thrown at them for being so stupid.
It's crazy, dude, and it's like some of it's ego. I mean, it's a lot of different things. But yeah, I'm honestly shocked sometimes that those like prank videos, don't get more out of hand than they do. But yeah, this guy Johnny Somali's been like in Japan, and then he was in Korea recently, and in South Korea, and he got the crap beat out of him, and then he got arrested. And then Jake was telling me that they may have found some cheese pizza allegations against him. So there's a lot going on there. I don't know how much how much of that's 100% true or whatever. I'm waiting for Jake to give me the updates on it. But yeah, man, they are at least in some way the like progenitors to all of that, and so not their own stuff like as well. It's just like, dude, and he knows it. I think he knows it, and he really kind of just like digs into it and makes that part of his persona.
Yeah,
and it's just sort of like, I don't know, man. I
think he did the right thing, not going all out on Tyson. Like he clearly there was some respect, because I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he could have knocked Tyson out.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody wants to say about that, that is the truth. And Jake didn't go after him like that, and I was really surprised. And his own corner was telling him, like, "Hey, you're the young lion. He's the old lion. Go after it." But Jake wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Mike Tyson survived because Jake Paul let him.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. That's why I wonder, dude, is like there's got to be some like some backroom dealings with these sort of things, or something's going on. Cuz it just everyone always gets like super hyped about these things, and then you're just sort of like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not to mention, I mean, you want to talk about like the production level, the pacing, which is so funny that we can talk about pacing when it comes to something like this.
Yep.
Everything took way too long, and then right at the beginning of the third fight, Netflix, their servers just got destroyed, just absolutely crushed. And
Dude,
so,
I mean, the announcers were also not that good.
oh, dude,
The
they were
boxing announcer, now, don't get me wrong,
terrible.
there was one guy that was a color commentator during the fights that was really good, and he's actually a professional.
Yeah.
And then Andre Johnson was really good, and the actual, you know, former boxers or current boxers that were doing the analysis, they were good. The other people they had there that had no experience, they need to get rid of them people.
Dude, it was just
They're terrible.
there was so much just yapping about nothing.
Yes.
Because yeah, you're right.
They had some. And no offense to her, maybe I would be worse at it than she is, but they had some Oscar-winning actress there. I think her name was Rosie, and I was like, why is she here? She just doesn't seem that knowledgeable about boxing. And you listen to Andre Johnson beside her, and you're like, man, I want to hear more from him because he's giving me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I don't know.
It's like if me talking about football and then being like, all right, David, what do you think?
Yeah, and I'd be like, that one guy, he threw the ball and it looked nice, and
Yes.
oh yeah, there was and then he yeah, and then you're like, oh, the footwork too, yeah, that was great,
Or it could be. To use another analogy, it'd be like maybe listening to me talking about acting versus listening to Rosie. Rosie probably has a better aspect and technique to come from it than me as far as showing someone how to act or whatnot.
Maybe man, I don't know. Sometimes actors are like the worst people to get anything from because that's what they do. You know what I mean? But dude, the whole thing was like
the same thing with like sports too. Sometimes just because somebody's really great at something doesn't mean they'd be a really good coach.
Yeah, and the whole thing was kind of lame, man. Like I think I enjoyed the two middle fights to a degree. There's some skill in there, and other than that, the rest of it was just either annoying because it was buffering like crazy, and then it looked like I was watching it in like 240p, or it was just like a spectacle that really didn't go anywhere, and people are really disappointed.
Well, I got a question to ask.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part? Mike Tyson being those chaps.
Oh, dude, that was so funny. There's a great
what it was.
Yeah, there's a great meme that I saw about that, where it was like the whole thing's buffering and then it's just good enough for that one part and then it goes back to buffering.
Yeah, I saw that in the chat. That was too funny.
So yeah, it was a cultural event, and I thought that we don't get to talk about it too much, yeah, man. I don't know if that event will win over any new boxing fans, and I'd be really curious if they ever tried to pull obviously it won't be the exact same stunt, but if they try to pull a similar stunt to that at some point, if people are nearly as interested, you know what I mean, or if that's really like a one-time thing, and man, Netflix, get your servers together, guys.
Yeah, this is
Like
their first foray into live sporting events, and they start. I heard in the broadcast. Um, Apparently, they have the rights to
football.
broadcast WWE Raw
Oh, that's what
live
it
next
was.
year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
they need to get their crap together.
the only thing I'm worried about, dude, is that we're just gonna get to the point where their prices are gonna be so much that's like, this is just cable. This is what we
Yep.
were trying to get away from. It's cable, and I have a few more choices about what I want to watch on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because most of that doesn't, I don't really care about WWE. It's just never really been
No.
my thing. So, but yeah, man, all kind of interesting, regardless of the outcome. I think most people were really just, they were hoping that Tyson had a little bit of something left in him. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that time catches up with us all, and injuries, dude. I mean, especially as you get older, injuries are going to be the thing that really make a difference too. Because they flare up. You can, you're
Yep.
you're good one day, and then the next day you're like limping. So yeah, it's
Listen, the only way Mike Tyson would, like, he would really need to be on steroids, on performance enhancing drugs like EPO,
nah, dude, he's too
and
busy
stuff that
smoking
would.
weed.
Yeah, exactly. So he probably went even to the fight high too.
It's possible, man. He don't care. I mean, he made what, $20 million off of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he don't care. He made bank.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we have gotten all of that out of the way, Joseph, it is time for us to talk about the middle act for Arcane Season 2. And I'm gonna let you go first. I want kind of general thoughts, and where you are now that we're over halfway through the final season.
So I got to start by saying, like, I watched season 1 3 times. Right, most recent was a few weeks before the like a week and a half before the premiere of season 2. And when I watched season 1 the first 2 times, I knew Warwick was Vander.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way.
Whoops.
Oops. Spoilers. And then I completely forgot when I watched it this last time, because I was watching it, but I wasn't as intent because we were watching it close to my bedtime and everything, and I just wasn't thinking about it. So when it was revealed that that's who he was, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. This is what David." I was like, "I knew this."
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So there's aspects of this I like. There's certain aspects, mainly that have to do with Caitlyn for me, that I.
I'll say this and then I'll let you keep going. But yeah, she took a little bit of her. I am always like looking at these things as almost like line graphs, and they're like moving up and down depending on how I sort of like feel about a character. And she definitely took a bit of a turn in this the second act for me. But honestly, I mean, obviously she's just a made-up character, so I'm saying it's not her fault. But it's like We'll get into it. You keep going, and we'll talk about some of this.
Yeah. So, but I really enjoy. I think there's certain beats to the story, the script that's moving too fast. I guess because of the time they're taking, they're having to speed rush through things, and they're not taking their time like they did last year. And it seemed like more. Everything else, the setting, the plot, were all built around the characters as they were introduced, whereas it seems like the drama between characters has more so taken a backdrop, and the plot has come to the foray. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I think I think for the most part I agree. The way that I've seen it so far is that you're right. I think the pacing it's frustrating. They are moving way too fast through character interactions most of the time. And I think that the season, especially this section, is struggling because they're moving so quickly. And because of that, you're getting bits of things. Like there's moments in there where you go, like there's a specific scene with Caitlyn and Ambassa where Caitlyn goes, "Why is it that every time, you know, we're trying to achieve peace, violence is the answer," or something along those lines? And I'm like, ooh, oh, that's so good. That's something you should talk to more about. That like there should be a back and forth with you two about. And then Ambassa kind of gives her a look, and then the scene kind of just ends, and you're like,
Yeah.
guys, no, what are you doing? Um, yeah, it just,
And there's like even there was a line from the first 3 episodes when Caitlyn and Jace were talking, where she says that Hestech, um, what was that line? She says that it won't save us, but it may help us live, or something like that.
yeah,
And I was rewatching that scene, and I was thinking, I'm like, that seems like something better come from Jace than Caitlyn.
maybe. I
And then
mean,
plus two, that whole thing with the council, with them voting on using Hestech as a weapon. I don't know if we talked about this
we didn't. I know what
last
you're about
week.
to say.
Yeah, but that was another thing I meant to mention last week, to where it's like, why wasn't Jace involved in that? Especially since he would be the primary one that would be making the weapons, and his story so integral to that plot point.
Yeah. And they don't. Yeah. Well, and they
And
also.
he's just in the next room over
Yeah.
too.
They don't. Yeah. He's like still the head of the council, and they're like, we're gonna vote on this. Yeah. I don't. I of the if we're just talking within this season of the two parts, I think part one is stronger.
Ye-
Almost. Because there's stuff I like. I I like what they're doing with Jinx. I actually
Agreed.
I saw somebody mention this. They were kind of like the direction that they're trying and what they're doing with Jinx in season 2 is what they missed the mark with Joker
Oh
in the
yeah.
second movie, where they are taking a a very very flawed individual, someone who's done a lot of awful things, and she has now kind of been thrust into this position where she might have to like lead a group of people. And I think it's kind of interesting. But the again, it goes back to the and we'll get to stuff that I like, because I don't think the season is bad. I think that would
No,
be
not at all.
an unfair. And I want to see the whole thing, because I don't know yet if certain things that I'm concerned about, if there's ways for the end of the season to sort of elevate the rest of the season a little bit higher. Um, but yeah, the stuff with Jinx, for the most part, feels like they are giving it enough time. Vi's still getting a lot of time, but the problem what I'm having with the season right now is like they're spending so much time with the two of them that they have all this other cast of characters that now sort of feel like dressing, rather than
Yes.
like the meat of the story.
Dude, Caitlyn has gotten way too much time.
Yeah, too much independent time, because if you
Yeah.
remember, like she's a lot of her growth, a lot of her development, it happens because she spends all that time with Vi, and the
Right.
two of them together are great in season 1. And they're coming from different worlds, and Caitlyn's getting to see the underground and like what's going on there and all the terrible things that are happening, and they're kind of setting that up for something. And we talked about it last week, but like her transition into sort of being like the authoritarian leader of Piltover is probably a little too fast. There was probably some time that needed to be done there, and I think, man, like when we're done with this, I'm because I already kind of feel this way. They should have at least made Arcane 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's what's kind of screwing them, is the fact that they've only gone for two when it should have been longer. Because like the comment from David, I was going to mention that later on, but in the troll room, David said, I think they could have gotten away with all of it, but specifically the goth fight to Jinx makeup, needed at least a 10-minute explanation before they go looking for Vander, and not just that one with
Yes, I agree.
Jinx and Vi, but also Vi and Caitlyn and
Yeah,
the
that
immediate
takes, dude.
immediate
That's
turn.
that part. I think could have used. I mean, they both needed more time. That one's faster than the Vi and Jinx thing. Because
Yep.
at least with the Vi and Jinx thing, they've had interactions. Well, they've all had interactions, but there was sort of this like they've had so much history in the past, and they've gotten so close to like to Vi killing Jinx, and then Vi realizing she probably can't do that. That them getting back together and then like doing this new thing. I'm sort of like, okay, I find that a little bit more believable and could have forgiven that taking so long. But the thing, yeah, with the thing with her and Vi, it's like, guys, you had this massive blowout, and all of a sudden, it's just like she flips you over. She like Caitlyn wins the fight or fight, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then Vi calls her cupcake, and then they're good again. And all of the conversation and all the things that they're doing, practically all of it takes place off screen.
Yep.
And
on top of that, I could have more so. I think a bigger even issue than just the tension and issues between Vi and Caitlyn. You also have Jinx, and Jinx being the one that killed her mother, and I wouldn't have imagined that Caitlyn would have turned that fast. Unless again, we would have to have seen a conversation of her, them talking, and her not realizing that Jinx was there, or Vi lying to her about Jinx.
You know what probably needed to happen to make it a little bit more believable for with Caitlyn? Jinx probably should have saved her from Warwick.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying, man, is like I do like this show. And I think I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be one of those things that I'm like, for all of its faults, I'm still, I still like it and can probably still recommend it. I need to see this last section. But yeah, I have to admit, I think this act, because I am going through it in my head, and like obviously once this season's done, I want to watch the whole thing as like a complete story. This act 6, 7, and 8 of season 2, I think is the weakest act of the whole series.
I agree.
And that is
the time jump too.
And it kind of did. It's a little weird. Like, I thought it was going to be more than it was, but it seems like it's been a couple months, maybe. They don't even, and that's kind of something that they don't really handle the best, is like they don't really give you a time frame. Like, there's not enough change other than what Vi was doing with her hair. And then Jinx is closer.
It's always the hair, dude.
Yeah, Jinx is closer with what's the little girl's name?
I don't know her name. Little Jinx. We'll just call her Powder Junior.
They mentioned her name a couple times in there, but I haven't. It just hasn't like gotten. I am. How are you cool with their relationship? Like I actually, as far as kind of the relational stuff going on in the show, the two of them, and then I actually do like the stuff that they're doing with Jinx and Vi, like I had said, like that stuff still feels strong. It's stronger than everything else that we've got going on, but they're also spending a lot more time with them. And I would, I was hoping maybe like Caitlyn and Bossa would get some more time. Like if you think about it, right? Like even if they had set up that scene early on where Caitlyn's like, why, when we're talking about peace, why does it always like lead to violence? A very interesting topic and an interesting conversation, especially because like it's something that is very relevant to today, that you could have weaved in there, because to a sense it's like timeless, but like being able to put that in there, and then that's something that Caitlyn is kind of grappling with for the rest of the season, but it just kind of seems like it was an idea they had, and then it just probably isn't going to go anywhere.
It seems like there's going to be potentially quite a bit of that. going on. What did you think about Hermandinger and
Heimendinger
Echo? Yeah,
and Echo
Heimendinger
not being
and
in it at all.
Echo.
Dude, I honestly, I'm a little concerned. Because I don't know, like
That
what.
was the biggest shock for me.
Yeah, I, I guess it's more that I'm a little frustrated. Now, again, that we could get back to this next week, and there could be a difference with what they did, where it's like, wow, they really like did something interesting with that. What I'm worried about, Joseph, is they're setting up Echo and Heimendinger for something outside of Arcane.
Yep, that's what I'm worried about as well.
And that we're not going to get any sort of like I'll be shocked if they're like if episode 3 was it, and then we're not getting any more from. We'll get hints of them. Maybe Jace has information about them, but like we don't see anything else about them in this season. That is not good. I think they're. I don't know. I know this for a fact that they're already talking about that they want to tell other stories. I think the problem is that they needed to take more time with this one.
Right.
They needed 3 seasons, I think, to really. It's almost like I'm trying to figure out how this would work out. I guess I probably need more time for this to kind of stew, but it's almost like Act 1 of Season 2 should have been longer, and then maybe Caitlyn, by the end of the second act of Season 2, gets sort of like her rise to power. Yep. I don't know, man. They just needed more time they need more time with the characters. They needed
the plot points are rushing.
Yeah, they needed more
Character
time.
development's rushing.
Mm-hmm. They needed more time to have Caitlyn kind of like brew in the death of her mother. Her father probably could have played a part in that. Obviously, like her and Ambassa, that could have taken a little more time. Because, honestly, Ambassa's kind of gotten the short end of the stick this season, too. Like, every scene that she's in Season 1, it's just like, yes, like, I know who this is. I like that. She's very confident. And then, like, the season, she's just kind of, she's there, like, I don't know. It's weird, man. I don't have it fully like worked out to why everything feels off other than the pacing. But it's definitely concerning. And I'm a little worried that the reason that the pacing is the way that it is because they wanted to finish up the story to move on to something else.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's not good. That's a problem, especially because the way that they talk about this show. I've talked about this already, but like in the special features for Season 1, the way that they talk about the show and the way that they talk about these characters and the amount of time and effort that they're putting into all of this to get to this season, and for a lot of it to feel rushed, and then for there to potentially just be like we're setting up for later stuff. I don't know. I'm feeling a little up in the air with Season 2, and I don't like that feeling so much. I still think that, man, they I think the action's great. I like what they're doing with a lot of that. And like I said, I think the strong point of the season so far really is Jinx, Vi, and Vander. And the stuff going on there. It's the most interesting stuff that they're doing. I think the stuff that they're doing with Jace, Echo, and Heimendinger is interesting too. And I mean, in the way that and Victor's involved in that. But the problem is that they just went through an entire arc and we didn't see any of it. So I don't I don't know what to make of I don't know what to make of any of that. And I don't know what you do in 3 episodes that lands this thing in a way that isn't very, very bumpy, you know?
Yep. So where there's not stuff that's been glossed over.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I enjoyed the style. I enjoy the technical aspects of everything.
Yeah.
The design. Outside of, did we talk about the intro last week? Quite much, and how they changed it.
I think we talked about. I kind of glossed over it a little bit.
So I was gonna say, I think we did mention this last.
And we talked about the music. We talked about Imagine Dragons.
That was exactly what I was gonna bring back up.
Okay.
I was gonna say, man, I wish they would have gone even just with a different song from Imagine Dragons. Oh man, and I really enjoyed the stone iconography they used, the style and the design of utilizing that versus the alternate direction they went this year with doing a lot of meta references to different Greek tragedies, heroes and stuff.
Yeah. But what? I mean, that's great, but I'm sort of like, I don't know, like what, by the time we get to the end of this, are we going to look at that and be like, great, could you have spent more time on the story, please?
Yeah.
Because a big part of it is the character dynamics, and like that's why I said there's a lot of that really good stuff with and I will get into this too, because we definitely have to talk about because there's, I'm trying to find the shot. The show still has these moments where I'm like, okay, like they still have some, like their visual storytelling is still really good, and you might have noticed something I didn't, but I have not noticed a lot or any instances of them telling us certain things rather than just showing it to us from character emotions. There's this shot that I really like. It's not the first time anybody's ever done this, but there's this moment where Jinx and Vi are they're looking for Vander, and you have this little moment where she wants to like comfort her sister, but she's still conflicted about everything, and like they're showing all of this through this, and so like the people making this, they're aware of how to do this stuff, right? Like, and maybe that's why this act in particular has me a little more frustrated. Like they're aware of how the visual storytelling is connected to the story. But I don't know. Like I don't know if they would have been better served just making this middle act about Jinx and Vi and like hyper focus, like doubling down on that instead of spending time with a lot of the now what feels like dressing of the show. And I'm just like, I was happy they spent as much time with Victor as they did. And I still find his character. Again, like we were talking about before, Caitlyn started taking a dive and Victor started going up.
Yep.
I really like what they're doing with him, and I guess what I'm hoping for by the time that the season is over is that there's still enough kind of like interesting stuff going on there that if they decide to do, I mean, they're obviously going to do spinoffs. I watched a hour-and-a-half long video about the lore of Runeterra, which is the world that they live on. Because I think I've mentioned this already. Like, I have no interest in League of Legends. In fact, all of the games that Riot makes, they're just like not for me at all. Like, they just aren't. I was looking at it today because I was like, okay, let me just see what they have. Like, maybe there's something in there. It's just not for me. Don't really like MOBAs. Valorant, it's kind of like a CS:GO type shooter, which whatever. And they have like a card game and then like one other game that is like an auto battler or whatever. I think that's it. And I was just like, it's not for me, whatever. I was like, but I really like the world that they've created. I like the characters that they've created. I think some of the stuff that they've done is fascinating, and some of the stuff that they haven't talked about in the world. Like one of the things that I think was very smart about what they're doing is that like Arcane, and I don't mean this. This can get misconstrued, but they're like Arcane and what they're doing. It is compared to a lot of the other stuff that is involved in this entire universe. Arcane is very grounded.
Yes.
It's very like this would be kind of considered normal as far as because there's some there's some crazy lore stuff that I'm like, I'm still like wrapping my head around a little bit of it. Some of it you just go like okay, and then you're like, I wonder if they're ever going to adapt that. It's very interesting, but I really do appreciate what they've done with everything. Like clearly the people who have created all of this, like they really care about all this stuff. I think when we're done with this though, it's just going to be like the big question is like, did you rush through this? Did you not spend enough time developing season 2 the way that it needed to be? And what's crazy is I don't think it's a matter of them needing more time. I think maybe they just kind of missed the mark in what they wanted to do with the show, which sucks to a degree. And like I said, I
don't think it's a matter of them needing more time either. I'm glad you said that. That's one thing I was gonna pick up on. 3 years is a long time, and I know they had 6 years to do season 1, but it's not like, based off of all the experience they got from season 1, it's not like they needed 3 more years to make sure they really got season 2 down.
Yeah, it's an animation.
They had their foundation.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it probably shouldn't have even taken 3 years, but.
And I think that I think an extra season really would have.
I think that's the big thing is having to get through all that, all those plot points within.
Because you could have left.
What is this season going to be? 8 episodes, right?
9. So three per arc. You could have left Vander dead for another season. That didn't necessarily have to happen in season 2. You could have had an entire season of Vi, joining up with Caitlyn, and it goes from her being super connected to the underground to now not, and maybe they spend a good portion of the season hunting Jinx. It's like they had a lot of ideas and they were trying to fit them all into this season. They almost as if like each arc in this could have been a season.
Really could have been.
Yeah. Really could have spent some more time with these characters, and I'm wondering. They'll never say, more than likely, but I'm wondering if they'll look back on it and be like, like maybe we could have done a little bit more there. I'm seeing what the troll room's saying. The situation is that the series was made to be 5 seasons at first, but it's been cut to 2, so it's been rushed to fit everything, which is sad. But nonetheless, they've done an amazing job. Yeah, listen, visually, I can't complain. I mean, we talked about this last week. There are just moments when I'm watching this, and I'm like, this is some of the best animation I've ever seen, if not the best.
100%.
How are you feeling?
Not quite as good as that last Justice League game that came out. I mean, that's probably top of the line.
Kill the Justice League.
It was so good I forgot the title.
Oh, David was saying that as an old League fan, the whole Black Rose plot is great, but it's pretty fan servicey, and if they don't flesh it out, I'd have rather that time gone to character dynamics. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much you know about that, Joseph, but I did learn a little bit
Jack
more.
crap.
Yeah, I learned a little bit more about that character. Very cool. I don't know where they're gonna take that this season.
Okay.
It feels like
The Black Rose character is very cool.
Yes, very involved in um, the bigger plot of stuff going on in Runeterra.
Okay.
Been around for a very long time, from what I can tell. And David can correct me if I'm wrong about that. I literally, just started kind of diving into some of that. A video literally popped up on my YouTube page, and it was like history of this stuff or whatever, and I was like, oh, okay, sounds good, and started watching it. And it's a lot. There's a lot going on. And anyway, so yeah, I he's right. I don't know what they're gonna do with that and Mel. We did get confirmation that Mel clearly has some ability, latent or otherwise.
Yes.
Whether she is 100% aware of it or, we don't know yet, at least. But yeah, the Black Rose stuff, man, I don't know that. It honestly, dude, it's one of those threads that feels like they're setting that up for something else. And that we may not get. And maybe that's honestly, dude, maybe that's why they decided to go in the direction of Jinx and Vi, and they spent so much time with them in. We kind of got like our setup with a lot of the different characters, and like everybody's kind of heading off in these different directions. And then the middle section now, it's Jinx, Vi, Vander, and Victor to some degree. And so I don't know if like they're just gonna push forward with that, and we're gonna get a little bit of time with these other characters, and then it's basically gonna be like, okay, the season ends, we get pretty much the closure that we need for Jinx and Vi. And then it's going to be these things where it's like Echo and Heimerdinger, and then, I don't know if Victor is dead or not. I was thinking he wasn't, but I don't know. I don't know yet. And then, I don't. But regardless of that, right? So maybe if he's alive, right? Then like Victor, like he's probably going to go on to have some other plot lines, and Ambassa and Mel clearly are probably going to have some other stuff going on. Maybe we're done with Jace after this season. I don't know. So? I don't know. But there's definitely going to be I mean, I say this, but that's not really true. I'm saying like there has to be some closure with some of these characters, but like maybe there doesn't. Maybe they're gonna look at this and realize after the season that they pushed way too quickly, and they're like, well, maybe we need to give them a little more time or whatever. I don't know what their plan is really. But the yeah, I would I hope I'm not right, but I have a feeling I'm right. That's what they're doing, is that Vi and Jinx are going to get most of the closure that they need. Maybe they'll show up in other people's shows at some point. And then Heimerdinger and Echo are going to get a show at some point, which, if I'm being honest, totally fine with.
Yeah, but I don't think because they were in season 1, how smart is it to wrap up their arc not contained within season 1 and 2 of Arcane, like their primary plot point?
It's weird for sure. It's why it's weird that they decided to make this 2 seasons. And if it is really true that it was supposed to be 5, or that they have plans for more than just 2 seasons, at some point they must have decided like we need to take a turn. Which, if I'm being honest, if that's the case, then like there should have been. I don't know if they needed to be more honest about what they were doing and being like, hey, like we realized this is a lot bigger than we thought it was, and what we're going to do is give you resolution to Jinx and Vi and whatever, and then like you're going to get more of these characters, but we're going to be having like announcements soon about what's going to be happening with some of them.
Right.
And maybe that would have been the better route to go. And they're gonna do it. I guarantee you. Like the season will end, and they'll have something where they're like, hey, like this is our, there'll be some news about like, hey, this is what we're planning to do with some of these characters, because yeah, man, I don't. Ugh, I love Heimerdinger and I and Echo and like and even uh there are some other characters that feel like they just kind of got put on a they just got put to the side for this like middle act, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah,
Um,
especially considering that Silco, Caitlyn's mom, there's some big characters that died. Uh, last season, this season, that you think they would allow more time for characters they established last year instead of introducing as many new characters that they introduced so far this year.
yeah. Um, so I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do next. I hate to say it.
They set the bar so high with season one,
It
dude,
is
and it's
true.
just
It's
it's so high that it's like it's really hard. It's not like this season's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's bad.
no. I still
It's just
enjoyed.
that
I still enjoy. I've been enjoying it. There's just this part of me like that was watching it, and I was like, I was like something,
yeah,
there's more to it than this, but like it was just like this feeling of watching it and being like, hmm. And then there was little stuff too where like characters would say things that like didn't make sense.
for the
There's one,
character. Yep.
yeah, there's one early on. Dang, I should have written it down. I got to get better about that. But one of the characters, she like mentioned something about like the strategy that we're doing, and I'm like, what? I was like, it's when Caitlyn and the Irish girl are
Oh yeah,
yeah, the Irish girl says something to her, and I was like, huh? I was like, that
yeah.
doesn't.
I
What are
know
you talking
exactly
about?
what you're
I
talking
wish I
about.
could remember what the line was. Um, I got to be better about writing that stuff down when it happens. But yeah. Okay. So, I also wonder if I'm gonna appreciate season two a little bit more after like on a full second viewing.
Could be when things depends on how it ends. Maybe there's some aspects of the show to where it wraps up in a more intelligent manner.
Yeah, where they give you some good closure. I hope. I did want to talk about the very beginning of this opening where it's just sort of this black and white cinematic with the characters, and this is like one of the ways. And I talked about this last week that I am not against them using these little, everybody's like calling them music videos or whatever you want to call them. These little sort of like moments of them.
Montages.
Montage is a good word, thank you. Where they're showing you and kind of getting you caught up a little bit, so that they can kind of get into more important stuff. I would be, excuse
so
me.
they can do their time jump.
Yeah, well, I would be totally fine with this if it was in favor of them having these conversations and the build up with the characters. So like you're going to show me this and I'm cool with that. I don't need to see like the full out riots and like the whole thing going on. If you're going to take the time where like Caitlyn and Ambassa are sitting down they're like sitting down and like having those conversations about like what they're doing and the struggle that Caitlyn has versus like Ambassa, because like they're, obviously age and experience. And then like Caitlyn, who is like a part of all this, she's gone to the underground. She's been, she's done the entire thing, and she's coming at it from a different perspective. And then like she gets her there where she's like, we want peace, but like all you're talking about is like the violence that's necessary to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep harping on that
Good
because
line.
like it's a point in there that's like, yeah, this is great, and then it's like it doesn't really go anywhere, and then they kind of they move on to that next thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Are we
Okay,
good?
sorry. I thought you cut out. Yeah, no, you're good. So the troll room says, in my opinion, you need to rewatch the second season after the final batch of episodes. There's a lot of clever foreshadowing and visual clues that tell a lot of the story. But yeah, probably rewatching the episodes would definitely help, and writing things down better would definitely help. But I think typically for me, if I'm already feeling this way upon a first viewing, I typically will just have my viewpoint solidified
And
and have my mind changed
what is
on
there?
it since it's been like from season like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I felt the same way about the first 3 episodes as I did these episodes, and yes, the last 3 episodes could definitely heighten that some. um but are the last 3 episodes going to knock it out of the park to where, I guess if anybody could do it, the writers of Arcane could definitely do it to where they knock it out of the park and my entire viewpoint changes on season 2. But
I still don't
I
think
find
it's.
it as unlikely.
I still don't think I'm. Listen, I could be totally wrong. I don't think I'm going to come away from this being like, well, the last 3 episodes changed my mind about the pacing.
Yeah.
Changed my mind about like.
Certain things the character said that didn't
Yeah.
make sense to their character, that wasn't true to them.
I mean, but montages are part of stories. They do them all the time. They help with the passing of time when someone's training. So like, I just kind of disagree with that. I mean, vignettes is fine, but at the same time, like I think montage is totally fine. I think it's semantics at a certain point with stuff like that. And like, yeah, I mean, like, there's probably going to be some foreshadowing. There's going to be stuff that's gonna like hit home at the end, and we'll look back and be like, yeah, this works. Does this work? I mean, that's all that we're doing. Like, this isn't. It's not really rocket science at the end of the day. It's very much like, okay, here's this from beginning to end. How do we feel this specific aspect went?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Because we haven't talked about it yet. How are you feeling about Warwick and the stuff with Vander?
I'm kind of one of those people that's like, you should have just kept them dead. And
That
that's
I
just
wonder
because of the emotional impact of his death.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're retrodden similar plot points for season 1. And it's like, I'm typically not. They could end up changing my mind. I don't absolutely hate it. Like, I'm not saying this is something I hate, right? But I think there's just that emotional pull and moment for Vi to where, and Jinx both, to where his death is such an integral part to their who they end up becoming as characters.
Yeah.
Now I could certainly understand too him coming back in this kind of twisted shape only to die again. Well, seemingly, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a lesser version of what they did in season 1. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's back for an episode, and he's dead again. So sad and so tragic. But it's done by Powder Jr.
So I don't think he's
Jinx.
So I don't
think he's dead either.
I don't
I'm
think he's
saying
dead.
Like what we know up to this point, right? And in Powder Jr. doing it. Because it's a retelling of Jinx doing it from season 1 and causing such a catastrophe, but this time Powder Jr. sacrifices herself, type of deal. Again, I don't hate it, but it's like, But I agree with you. I don't think that he's dead.
Dip Profundus is saying the pacing will still feel rushed. There's too many plot lines that need resolution in only 3 episodes. But I'm biased. I'm in awe with the artistic direction of the show. This is groundbreaking work. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Oh.
I'm trying to put my bias aside in order to, like, you got to understand, like, Joseph and I love season 1. Like, adore season 1. I gotten so many arguments with people about the first season of the show, and so it is a
and there's so many people we've tried to convince to watch season 1.
And so, like, with some of the stuff that they're doing, and with the way that the pacing is going, and the way that they're just kind of handling character arcs, it's just like it's just going too quick. They're speeding through things that deserve more time. Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, like, they're speeding through aspects of characters and them
Yeah, like for
breaking
example,
apart,
one
coming
probably
back
the
together.
most glaring one for me is Jace just not being part of the council in the first three
Yeah,
episodes, making a decision to make war on Zahn, considering
right.
that it was him and Silco that came together with a peace agreement. And also everything that him and Victor have talked about. You know, he's so integral to that. That's a huge miss that they have to address in these last
Because
episodes.
I think here's the thing is like I think that I don't think they're now. I know some. I've heard some people kind of disagree. I haven't heard any great arguments for it yet. I don't, as far as I am concerned, I don't think they've assassinated any of the characters in the show because I think
No.
everyone's still making proper decisions based on like what we know their characters to be. I think the problem is that they're speeding through where those decisions should be made and the way that they need to like do that stuff, that it's just kind of like, okay, it becomes a, well, we need these characters to be here in order for this thing to happen. And so because they're going so fast, that's where the annoyance sort of comes from with Caitlyn and Vi, they're working together, and then you have the situation where Caitlyn or like Vi cannot kill Jinx, and then Caitlyn has a shot, but then Caitlyn doesn't take the shot, and then there's not enough time with Caitlyn and Vi working through that, so that like Vi's coming to this understanding that she still thinks that she can save her sister, which is still in line with where we end season 1. Like she thinks she believes that Jinx is all that's left, but then like clearly that's not really what's going on. I think that's totally fine. And then they kind of come back together, and it's like we were talking about earlier. They meet up. She's basically like, Vander's alive. They kind of have this little back and forth, and it's just kind of like, okay, now we're moving on, and now we're teamed up and moving forward. And there's some like banter and like back and forth with the two of them, and some of that still works for me. Like when they're down in the mine, I'm like, okay, there's enough going on here that again, I think I can kind of forgive that it didn't happen right away. But it's still there where it's like I don't know. I need to look at it. And
It's just a
listen.
hair
I
or two short.
do what?
It's just like a hair or two short from the standard last
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. And I told you this before. Like, you know, season 1 did a lot of heavy lifting with setting up characters. It's why you can reintroduce Vander in the way that they did. And you're still pretty much cool with it. Like I like a lot of what they're doing. There's some stuff I'm still trying to figure out. I think there's a lot to kind of like dig into with the scene with the girl's mother, Vander, and Silco in that flashback. And to be honest, I wanted more of that too. You know, you're like,
so I'm glad Trey pointed out that was actually the next thing I was going to bring up, because you talked about character assassination, and I don't think again that there is any character assassination, but Caitlyn does kind of go on this journey of lawful good to like a complete 180 to military dictator who.
So
and it just seems a bit fast in the sense of this. It's not that I couldn't have seen her going that direction due to Jinx killing her mom and Caitlyn just kind of get into this. It actually would have been even better if they were able to take her time to see Caitlyn go through this battle of, you know, brandishing all the people of Zahn as these terrible people, but then that other side of her knowing that they're not.
We needed more of that for sure. I think that is an issue with her character this season.
And I even think Jinx's redemption arc they're clearly trying to seemingly set her up on is going too fast as well, and that her issues with Caitlyn have got to get addressed.
Yeah, they do for sure
in a very meaningful fashion, because I just don't understand how Caitlyn would help Vi given everything they've set with her disdain of Jinx.
There has to be what it probably has to come down to, and I'll tell you what I think is probably going on there. I think that obviously Caitlyn has, you know, they moved pretty quick through this, but Caitlyn has seen the errors of her whichever ways. I think otherwise, and that's the thing is like that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like it's moving so quickly, and it's like Caitlyn went from being like, we've got the big bad dictator who's being manipulated by M'Bassa. By the end of this, she's back to where she was at the beginning of season 2. So it's like they just kind of skated past a lot of the stuff there, like the complexity, if you will, and the complications that should have come with that. It's kind of what I was looking forward to with her character. Like I was kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt a little bit at the end of the first arc, because I was curious like what that was really gonna be like. And then we're kind of back here, and I guess I'm worried that they're gonna kind of do the team up by the end, and that maybe we won't get kind of what we're looking for, but the guess, right? Because I don't know, is that Jinx is going to take on the Vander, because I know where Vi ends up, just from paying attention to like lore stuff from League, but Jinx is probably going to end up leading Zaun. More than likely. And I actually, TrayStation was saying that Jinx goes from mass murderer, blows up council to Jinx most good character in the show. I mean, I don't think anyone is under the assumption that Jinx is good, even now. I think
not even Vi is.
She does like I think it's I would guess, and it really comes down to how well that they kind of write the rest of this stuff for her, how convinced the audience is that despite all of that, and because I think a lot of people in Zaun probably don't care, because everyone, for the most part, other than, well, even with Silco, and I don't know if anybody...
Don't you think they would have cared about her murdering Silco?
Do they know? Because I was under the assumption that Vi and Caitlyn are the only people that know about that, and I guess it could get out there. I don't. Again, this is probably stuff for like I got to see the end of it to have like a full understanding. But what I'm saying is like what they're probably going for, regardless of all of that, is that she'll end up there. Vi is going to become an enforcer, and work in that realm, and then everybody else is kind of up in the air for me, because I have no clue what they're planning to do. I was still kind of hoping that they were going to go down the route where like things don't end well for Vi and Caitlyn, and that there's kind of what I was that there's whether one or both of them die, or even if neither of them die, that there's like tragedy there, that like they just can't, because I think that's interesting. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of bold. It's like, don't let them end up together. Don't like fall into the trap of like the fan servicey nature of like letting the two characters end up together. Like there's a lot of tragedy and a lot of like personality clashes between the two of them, and I think it would be kind of cool if that wasn't how they worked it out. So I am curious where they're gonna go with the end of it. I'm not totally sure where that's going on, and like I also think like how the stuff with Jinx and the girl who we unfortunately can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
Sorry
Powder
guys.
Jr.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with her meeting her, saving her. I mean, she does murk like 3 or 4 dudes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it like the people in Zaun don't strike me in the show as people who like when stuff like that happens, it's like, oh, she's the worst, They kind of get it, and she does save her from something that was probably going to be a lot worse. And I don't know, maybe who knows? Maybe Jinx doesn't make it through the season, and she becomes more of a symbolic
figure.
Well, like a symbolic figure for Zaun than actually taking over. I could see that happening too. But I don't know, because like, and I guess the thing too is like, they talked about this before, that like the show, a lot of it is about how like, can you redeem a monster?
Yep.
And the question that we might get to by the end is convinced that they did that properly
Mm.
with Jinx in particular, because it's kind of what they're doing. Vander kind of, and it's a little bit more in your face, right? Like it's not there's no subtext or whatever to it. He's literally a monster. And my assumption is by the end of this that like he's gonna sacrifice himself for the girls.
Oh yeah.
And then that'll be his arc, and I think it's fine. Because I agree with you. There's part of me.
It's fine to bring him back.
Yeah. I mean, like I think he is the way that they've set it up is that he is really the thing that brought the two of them back together, and maybe that's the thing that convinces Vi that Jinx is worth trying to save. And we'll see where that kind of ends and what that means. But a lot of the stuff and a lot of like these things that they've been wanting to do, I do have to see the end of the season before I can give you like a like kind of tell you where I'm at with some of it.
Right.
I just this arc in particular, from like a story and character standpoint, feels much weaker to me than everything else they've done so far.
I agree with that.
And dude, man, I shouldn't have done it. I got on X the day I finished watching it, I think for the second time, and I got on Twitter and it was trending. Arcane was. Dude, it's just like weird fan fiction servicey, like people hoping that like Victor and Jace end up together at the end of the season, and and of course like everybody's talking about the visuals, which is fine, but it's not what made the first season great.
No, what made the first season great outside of all the technical stuff is the cherries on top, so to say, or the next layers beneath or on top of the main layer, which is the writing, the script, the character writing specifically, and how the setting and the plot points all are secondary to the characters themselves and their interactions.
It's like driving the characters for sure. And then like there is a lot of stuff, and we talked about before. There's a lot of these like little subtle things that they do in season one that give you like the visual storytelling for each of the characters and the stuff that they do that's like in the backgrounds or I was trying to think of what was the other thing. Regardless, but yeah, I'm hoping. I'm just hoping for a little bit more by the end with a lot of it, and I'm just not. I'm not sure because there's a lot. I mean, and we've talked about it, right? I mean, I know we've been a little bit harsher on this part, which I don't think we were about the first part. But man, I gotta call it like I see it, and I'm fine. Like if we get, if we get to the end of the third arc, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. That was surprising. It's like I thought that Caitlyn was going to go straight into sort of this like punished character right after her mother died, and they didn't really do that.
Be the goth emo character this year.
What they did that was so interesting about that is that they did seem like they were planning on spending a little bit more time with that, because I still figured she was going to turn, but like they took their time with it a little bit more, which is just so funny that we're like here, and I'm like, well, guys, maybe you take your time with some of this other stuff. And I unfortunately I think you're going to be right by the time we get to the end of this, is that like because that stuff with Caitlyn is interesting to me, but it's like I think you might be right that maybe it wasn't what we needed. It's not what the show needed.
It's fine if it was a strong part or a part of season 2, but I don't think they should have spent as much time as they did. I think just keeping the action focused on Vi and Jinx and that storyline, and then from there you got Heimendinger and Jace's. Which is, speaking of which, you would have thought there would have been a line or two or even a scene devoted to when all the destruction happened. them being like, we voted out Harmondinger
I'm a
Heimendinger
dinger.
in season one. You think we should bring Heimendinger back, especially since we're talking about unity and the people loved him. Um, and then somebody could have said, "Oh shoot, we don't even know where Heimendinger went off to.
Hmm.
Do you know where he's at?" And then just something devoted to that. But that was something that struck me as weird
Yeah.
because it's like you have this major, you know, well, not just one major attack from Zahn, like
I don't
from
have a
from
good
their
image of
perspective. You have two major attacks from Zahn, so you would think, okay, let's bring Heimendinger in, and he'll be able to help unify us with the people of Piltover and everything, and get everything back together, yada yada yada. But no,
Um, one thing, and then I want to talk about Jace a little bit, and then maybe close out. I'm not sure if there's maybe I'll think of something
that's
else,
fine.
but like we do need to talk about Jace a little bit and sort of the ending and where I mean we talked a little bit about where we think it might be headed, but the part, because I had heard some criticism of the part in Act 1 where Heimerdinger is kind of playfully going through um uh the school, or I can't remember if it's a school or university, just to get to Jace's office. And him and Echo are down in the thing, and I heard a lot of people and that were saying like they feel like they ruined his character and they're just gonna make him like the derpy, like goofball character now, and that like Heimerdinger's done.
Ace?
No. Sorry, I know it says it's Jace is there, but I don't have a shot of Echo and Heimerdinger because
Oh,
they're not in
gotcha.
Act 2. Um, but they, in Act 1 where they were like sneaking into Jace's office
Yes.
and he was kind of acting like that. Someone actually made a really good point that it now whether you like it or not is one thing, but that it might line up pretty well with what's been going on because Heimerdinger's basically been living with kids since for a while. Like as soon as he met Echo and like him and Echo are doing like their whole thing.
Right.
He's living with a lot of kids. Like there's a scene where he like makes his little invention that's like the bubbles for the kids. So his influences have kind of changed, and like the serious nature that he has, maybe he's like softened a little bit since then, and that was kind of their way of like representing that. Now, obviously, they didn't go into that very much, and so I have no clue what's going to happen by the time we see him again. But I thought someone made that argument, and I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, I like that you that maybe that was what they were going for right there, and it does make a lot of sense considering he's not living with these like academics and he's not part of this council anymore. He's kind of living a semi-normal life, and like things are a little more. They're just not quite as serious for him as they were when he was in the position that he was before as a professor and as a
Yeah.
council member. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I was like, okay, I'm glad somebody was like, putting like an argument out there that I'm like, that's actually surprisingly convincing, and at least believable for what was going on with him. The problem is we haven't seen him since then.
Yeah.
They get blipped away at
Right.
the end of Act 1, and we're just like, okay, what's going on? And like I don't know. I could have just I don't know. I don't know. I again got to see the third arc, but I don't know how I feel about it yet. All right, so what's going on with Jace?
He got captured by the evil hex score, and it messed him up, and then he goes and shoots his best friend.
Yeah. And he kills the council member along the way.
Oh yeah, did he? So that was the thing I was confused on. Was that legit or uh, a
Like, was he seeing? Do
vision
you think
or
he
an
was seeing things?
illusion?
No, I mean, I figured
Yeah.
I took that as real that he took him out. Um,
Okay, that's interesting then. Yeah,
yeah,
so he's gone. Maybe off the wall, maybe not.
I can't figure out. Sorry guys, I'm trying not to get tagged by YouTube this week. Um, I,
Be a
I
man. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, like because they do that little Sallow. Yeah, he that was what I was thinking because he comes back, and
Okay, so he did kill Sallow.
yeah,
I was confused on that. I thought I was like, okay, are they? I thought they were trying to misdirect you into like thinking, okay, Jace's the hex core has messed with Jace's mind, and he's the one that's the hex core is the one that's involved in this and bringing these illusions to Jace. I wasn't 100% solidified on the fact that like he actually killed Sallow or not, but
he I think he did, because everything about that scene, like he comes back and Sallow's going in there to pull out those like whatever those things are, the twisty power core.
yeah,
Do we get an explanation for that? Because
I don't know if we did.
I'm not sure if we did either. I don't know if that's it. I would assume that's like how Victor's like recharging, because
Oh yeah,
yeah, he gets told at one point that his like powers are finite. But I can't. I don't know exactly what's going on with Jace. It seems like they're setting up one of two things. It's either we're getting into the time travel-y stuff, and he's seen things. I'll tell you what I think's happening.
okay,
Because I don't know for sure. So I think that Jace saw something, and we don't know where Heimerdinger and Echo are yet.
yep,
And
they were with him.
there's one of two things happening. Jace is being manipulated, and well, I mean, there's a couple things that could be going on now that I'm really thinking a little bit harder about this, but because it could just not be Jace. Like it could just be possible.
That's a good point.
That like he's not who came back. I don't know. Like everybody does different things with this kind of stuff. It probably is him, and he's probably being manipulated. And he has probably been shown a future where Victor is like evil, and this is why I think he's being manipulated, because this is where I'm going with this. And so he comes back and stops Victor, thinking he's doing the right thing. My assumption is that Victor is not going to die, and this is going to turn Victor, because this is the kind of if I remember correctly, the way that like Victor kind of has his monologue at the end, he's basically turning against humanity.
Yep. Seeing them as the real monsters
because of what Jace did.
Yep. A
So,
singular person.
And to be honest, like, because we've been talking about like stuff that works, and I need to see. Again, this is like why I want to see the rest of it. But like something happening to Jace, him either being like manipulated or whatever the case may be, going and doing that to Victor after Victor has this sort of Victor actually is trying, because it seems like every time someone's trying to help Zahn and make the place better, something happens and someone makes a stupid decision that destroys that, right? It's like a running theme throughout the show. Silco, Jinx, now potentially Jace. There's a lot of these like moments and these decisions that people make that ultimately lead to like making things worse for those people rather than better. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Victor. I think he, for me, is still pretty safe as a character. Like I think by the time we're done with this, I'm still gonna be like, cool, Victor, like what they've done with him, maybe what they're planning to do with him in the future. But yeah, I don't. That's as far as I've been able to really get with that. And I do want to go back. I'll probably go back and watch 1 through 6 before last 3 come out. Just to see what else was there, and potentially like the little things that are going on, and because it's true, they do like to do foreshadowing. They like to kind of give you hints about where things are headed. But I don't know if I'm just some of it I'm distracted by the pacing and them feeling like they're rushing through a lot of things with characters. But I don't know,
Right.
man. You still feeling pretty good about it though? I mean, like I know
Yeah, I am.
we're being a little
I'm
harsh about
enjoying
it.
it still.
Um,
Well, that's the thing is I'm going to be honest about it, but I'm still really, really enjoying it.
yeah,
It's better than anything that's out right now. It's freaking better than Dune Prophecy.
man. Because I mean, like even just
At least I'm intrigued.
I
Like even if every other aspect um of Arcane was bad this season, at least I'm more intrigued in it than I am freaking Dune Prophecy. And that's not the case. I mean, it's still a good show. Dune Prophecy though.
I know you're not giving me a lot of
Ooh,
hope
that first
for
episode.
Dune.
Ooh.
Um, and yeah, man. I mean, like so this
My wife, I can already hear my wife just saying, "You just hate everything."
this is the how is she feeling about Arcane?
Oh, she's loving it.
Okay, so she's okay, cool.
She's higher on it than I am.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I honestly I feel like I just could pull stills from the show and like sit
And
here
now
and
I
like
will say
show
this in
them.
her defense: I
Yeah.
only seen the 40 minutes of the first episode of Doom Prophecy. I could get to the last, like I think I still have 50 minutes to go,
Yeah.
or 100 minutes. Uh,
And she's
but I
still
could get to the end of it, and I'm like, hey, it's actually a good
oh,
episode.
we can talk about this too. This is about to pop up. This will pop up on the stream in a second. Jace has a stone, an arcane, like a rune in his wrist.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about
What that means?
what's going on with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Which again is like, is it that he's being manipulated? Has he been shown something? He's always been like, you got to remember too about Jace. Like he's always been a very like brash character.
Mm-hmm.
He had, he thinks and does things before he really thinks about them a lot of the time. I mean, it's just been a constant thing with him throughout the season, and the show. Really, I mean, he did it a lot in season 1, and so I wonder. That's why my mind goes towards manipulation with that, because he seems like someone who'd be pretty easily manipulated.
Easy to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But dang, man, the show's got such good. It's. I don't know if you can really like. Man, the visuals are good in this. I just don't want it to ultimately be the lesson that they take away from, is that we need like the amazing visuals. Like the storytelling still got to be there.
It's the script.
Mm-hmm. Like it's still got to be really strong. You still have to, and again, I think that like compared to a lot, believe me, a lot of shows,
Yes.
this is not nearly in that league as far as like the criticism is concerned. I'm not mad about where they're taking characters so much as I am about how quickly they're getting them to certain places. That's the thing that really is just a real frustration for me with the show. But man, it looks good. Honestly, I could sit here and like click through these for a really long time and just keep pulling up like incredible. Yeah. There was another one that I was looking for. I just, even with the little girl sacrificing herself at the end, I'm curious
how that's going to work out.
Yeah, because that's why I was telling you. I think what they're going for is that, because it's what was happening. This is stuff that they're talking about in season 1. Is that like, they have that mural of all of the people that they lost, and like Powder is in the mural because, they don't. A lot of them just aren't like recognizing Jinx as the same person. But I wonder if, and you're starting to see how like Jinx and the imagery of her is becoming more of a, she's more of an idea than it is like the actual person.
Yep.
And so I just trying to figure out
a little bit of a Batman theme there.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, like, I still just don't know if I'm not sure I'm convinced that anyone believes that she's not a terrible person,
Yeah.
She's done a lot of awful things, and she has legitimately like murdered people. So yeah, I think you're right though. It's like there's gotta be the conclusion with her and Caitlyn more than anything, and like how that all sort of plays out, is probably the most important part of it. And I don't know if that means that like I just don't know what that means for those two characters. You know.
Yeah.
Got to wait and see what they decide to do with it.
True that.
I was trying to see if there were. I know there was another really cool shot in here. But yeah, man, I'm still good with it. I still think they're. I think
Still
they're
happy as well.
Yeah. I just yeah. I don't. Crap, I'm missing that shot. Whatever. Any other thoughts about Act 2 before we close out?
No, I think I'm good, dude.
I think I am for the most part too. I know, like, dude, we'll quit. And between now and like tomorrow morning, I'll have thought about a bunch of stuff that I missed.
Yeah. That's how it usually goes, right?
And I'm like, oh man, that was something I should have talked about. Or, we haven't really talked much about Mel. She hasn't been doing a whole lot. Oh, here's the shot, dude. The shot's so good.
Not yet.
We'll end on that shot because I think that's really, really cool. And that's why I'm saying is like they're like building up to a lot, and I'm like, y'all got 3 episodes. Like, what are we doing? Where are we going?
With it fast.
Yeah. I need I just need to know at this point. We're not too far away. Only a few more days. We'll finally have our answer. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think that the first act was still pretty strong despite some fair criticisms of it. I just don't know. I'm not sure if Act 2 quite fully holds up. And again, I think ultimately, what it is just comes back to the pacing, and that they're just kind of they're really flying through some of this stuff. And I don't know if we're gonna get much of a slowdown for the last 3 episodes. I don't know what they got planned, but oh man, even if they were just a little bit longer,
Yep.
I don't know if that would be the answer, or if you just really what you needed was a 3rd season, or a 4th and a 5th. Time will tell, and really what they decide to do next and where they take, the other stories they tell, whether they end up going like far past. Because really, I might be wrong about this, and somebody who's knows a little bit more about the lore, but like the stuff going on right now with these characters, pretty sure this is like modern, like pretty close to the most modern time in this universe. So there's a lot of other stories to tell. They just don't take place at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with all that, but all right, dude. We'll end it there. This was episode 190, Joseph.
Oh, geez, dude.
I know. Come a long way. 10 episodes to 200. We got to figure out something to do for 200.
Yeah, we got to do something special.
I was thinking
hot tub stream.
Yeah. Maybe we hit 10K. We'll do a hot tub stream. If you're cool with it, I might want to see if Technically Mexican wants to come on. I'm curious where I haven't watched his streams when he's been talking. I don't know if he talked about it this past Sunday. And then a friend of the show, he's been on a couple times. Justin flew through season 1. I finally got him to watch it. What is it? 3 years later. And I think he's been pretty positive on the experience. So I'm curious where he's at this point too. So if you're cool with it, I might have a little bit of a panel next week and see what's once it's all over, see what everybody's been thinking.
For the finale.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Cool, man. Well, thank you all for tuning in to this episode, whether you are watching this on YouTube live or after the fact, or if you have been downloading the podcast and listening to it there. We really do appreciate you guys and all the support for the Troll Room. And we'll be back next Monday with the finale and final thoughts on Season 2 of Arcane. And then who knows what we're going to be talking about after that. We'll see. I mean, we're close to the end of the year. The only other thing I'm really kind of excited about is Nosferatu, but that doesn't come out till Christmas. So we'll have about a month in between this and that. But that's it, man. At this point, man, I mean, it might be, I need to go back and kind of look at my list of stuff that I liked this year, catch up on some movies I haven't seen this year. I'm sure there's some news stories we can talk about, and then, yeah, we'll be talking about our end of the year picks, before too long. So,
well.